Hey, this is C&D channel. I'm Chris. This is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my post-fight analysis for UFC Fight Night 50. Overall, I thought it was a good card. The main card was really good. All finishes there, some upsets. The prelims, some of them were pretty good. I unfortunately missed Moraga versus Scoggins. And the last round of Iaquinta versus Dom. Didn't record on my DVR for some reason. My picks, not too bad, 5 out of 9. The ones I missed were all in a row. It was John Moraga versus Justin Scoggins, Lozon versus Chiesa, Mitrione versus Lewis, and Rothwell versus Overeem. As far as bonuses go, Chiesa and Lozon got Fight of the Night, while Souza and Rothwell got Performance of the Night honors. Couple notes here and there. Joe Lozon now has the most of the night bonuses in the UFC. He tied Anderson Silva's record. Now he just passed it, if I'm not mistaken. Brazilians won the main events of Bellator, which happened on 123. Patricio Pitbull Freire beat Pat Curran. I actually picked that right. I was actually pretty happy about that one too. And Jacare beat Mousasi. Picked that one right too. Sorry for bragging. I'm glad I got those right. If I was getting any fights right, I'm glad it's like the main event, you know. And as far as some comparison here goes, Bellator 123 brought in over 7,000 spectators to watch the event at a gate of $82,000, which is a record-breaking attendance figure for the venue. They were in Mohegan Sun. UFC's attendance at Foxwoods Resort Casino was 4,086, but it brought in a much higher gate of 479,620. Obviously, the tickets for UFC cost a lot more than Bellator does. I thought it's really interesting just because they're on the same night. Let's get started. Hanato Jacare Souza defeated Gegard Mousasi by guillotine choke in the third round. Man, this was you guys didn't have to pay. Free grappling seminar from Jacare right here, man. I mean, this was just a clinic. You know, very dominant performance from Jacare. He was actually outstriking Mousasi. Took him down when he was up against the cage, and he out jiu-jitsu'd him. You know, Mousasi tried to fight it, you know, but Jacare had passed the half guard a lot of times. Once he was in side mount, I mean, man, it was just like Kimura danger and whatnot. I mean, he's always in danger once. Mousasi was always in danger once Jacare got the dominant position. You know, there's some great stuff here from a technical standpoint, especially on the ground. There's some really good stuff from Jacare. I'm gonna say this. I know that Michael Bisping fights Luke Rockhold, and maybe the winner of that gets the winner of Weidman versus Belfort. But I think Jacare has earned his shot. I mean, he's in it. I mean, you watch a performance like this and you can't think, wow, you know, hey, very interesting challenge for the champion. Do I think he wins? Probably not. Does he have a chance? Sure does. You know? From Mousasi's side though, man, kind of flat. You know, this is very typical Mousasi here, you know, just in a sense. When he goes up against the very elite guys, you can't seem to beat him, you know? And there's usually some sort of hole in his game that makes it that he just, for whatever reason, can't do that. Can't beat those guys. You know, I mean, he beats guys like Munoz pretty easily, but then he'll lose to a Machida, lose to Jacare or something like that. You know, he's working on his takedown defense, but he definitely saw his problems with defending takedowns against a cage. He does still move straight back a lot of times, and Jacare was able to capitalize on that. So if Jacare gets a title shot, in my opinion, I think Mousasi should get the loser of Bisping versus Rothwell, or the loser of Kennedy versus Romero. Those are like two big middleweight fights coming up, and the winners of those fights are going to be like that much closer to a title shot. Next fight after that, Ben Rothwell defeated Alistair Overeem by TKO in the first round. Whatever you want to call Overeem, I know a lot of people are calling him a bust. I think that's an appropriate word. I know another guy just said he's greatly overvalued. Whatever it is, I mean, it's sad. Like, for fans of him, it's sad to see. But, it's just not good. I don't really know what the word is, If you're a fan of the guy, it's like, oh, man, this sucks. He's a total bust. He's totally overvalued and whatnot. But he keeps losing. He keeps getting knocked out, too. For a guy with his striking credentials to get knocked out the way he has been getting knocked out in the UFC, it's very, very... It's not... In a sense, it's unusual. But if you look at the specifics, it's really not that unusual. Okay, so Overeem... it's not just the chin. If it's one thing for the if he just had a bad chin, it'd be one thing. It's the defensive holes in his stand-up. I mean, the guy sucks at boxing range. I mean, this guy's just terrible at boxing range. I don't know how else to say it. He's good inside and like the clinch. He likes to throw like a short left hook. When he's throwing long left hooks, what happened? Oh, Ben Rothwell knocked him out. His cardio obviously needs some work. I mean, Travis Brown knocked him out with a front kick. That was a stance problem too. It didn't even look like he had like that crouched, hunch over stance, and it looks like he didn't even see those front kicks to the face. And of course, Bigfoot beat him up too with punches and boxing range. He's just really bad at boxing range. The guy needs to be kicking. He's very good at kicking the body. He's good at, he's throwing those kicks to the knees that like John Jones throws. He's throwing knees from the inside very well. It's two ranges where he's pretty decent at. Boxing range just isn't it for some strange reason. Well, it's not strange. Part of it too is also, I know in like K1 and whatnot, you don't have the big gloves. The shell defense doesn't work very well. And actually, he's not even using that defense, man. That guy's just getting hit, at boxing range for some reason. I don't know what it is. With the thing with Overeem though, it's like, oh yeah, you lost to Bigfoot, you're winning the fight, okay. Oh, you're winning the fight against Travis Brown. Oh, Travis Brown, good up and comer, okay. Ben Rothwell? I mean, I don't particularly like, and I'm not like a big fan of his or dislike the guy, but to be as objective as possible, I suppose, he's shown to be a pretty mid-level guy. I mean, he has some wins over guys like Schaub, lost to Hunt, lost to Gonzaga in a really terrible fight, got destroyed by Cain Velasquez when he first came into the UFC. Had some very just mid-level looking performances against a lot of fighters, I liked Rothwell's really funny dance after his victory. But yeah, if you're going to compare Rothwell to someone, he's got like Tim Bosch. He's a guy with good chin. He's hard to put away. And he has that power to make a comeback and enough resilience to make the sort of comebacks that are pretty crazy, actually, that you only see in like in MMA. Lots of guys for Rothwell to fight, actually. There's guys like Jared Roshaw, Matt Mitrione, Stipe Miocic, winner of Hunt Nelson, the winner of Bigfoot versus Orlovsky. All of those guys work. Overeem can get like Gonzaga, Brendan Schaub, or maybe the loser of Hunt versus Nelson. It's sad though, because now from picking, if you're going to pick Overeem, one thing is almost everyone in the heavyweight division has some semblance of power. You know, one punch knockout power. You know, like, or you can get dropped by a lot of guys. I mean, almost everyone in the division has that. And the problem is, especially in the UFC, so the problem is, it's like, you always, if Overeem fights like a mid-level guy, let's say Mitrione, you gotta be worried for Overeem. You know, you're just like, oh man, Mitrione hits hard. Look what he did to Derek Lewis. You know? Mark Hunt. If he fights him again, dude, I would not pick Overeem to beat Mark Hunt. Like, seriously. Roy Nelson, overhand right. You know? That's the thing with Overeem. Gonzaga, even. That guy hits hard. Everyone hits hard. You know? And a guy like Overeem with his defensive holes and whatnot, just, you know, it's not the division to have a pretty bad chin. Because he got rocked earlier with a punch. I mean, he just cannot take hits well. You know, there was some big commotion over Overeem also going to Jackson Winkeljohn. You know, we don't hear too much about Jackson Winkeljohn these days, except for guys like Cerrone, Cub Swanson, John Jones. But all the other guys have been losing. You know, and you gotta wonder what it is with the Jackson Winkeljohn camp. The thing is, Jackson Winkeljohn is not a camp to improve upon skills. They're pretty much a finishing school. So if you already have a pretty established skill set, then, you know, you can refine things, work on game planning and whatnot in Jackson Winkeljohn. But some of the guys are losing lately, you know, losing pretty big. I think that in a sense, because the problem is they're not a gym/school that also teaches their fighters to fix the holes that they have, and that's very problematic moving forward for their camp. You know, just a lot of the guys, if they have bad striking, they keep bad striking. Even you can even see that John Jones. I mean, he's definitely a really good striker, and he outstrikes people in his division. But at the same time, defensively, I mean, the only defense the guy has is like stick your hand out and put, you know, that's it. That's his defense. I mean, he doesn't have many other like defensive maneuvers except for like stick your hand out, and that didn't really work against Alexander Gustafsson that well, you know. So it's gonna be interesting moving forward, seeing the Jackson Winkeljohn fighters. Be interesting moving forward if Overeem stays with Jackson Winkeljohn as well. Next fight after that, Matt Mitrione defeated Derek Lewis by knockout in 41 seconds in the first round. Lewis just totally ran into that short punch from Mitrione. I knew Mitrione was a much more technical striker. I thought that Lewis would be able to still find his chin, because he still does have some defensive holes in his stand-up. But that was not the case. So there's really not much to say. You know, Lewis, he is what he is. He's not very technical. He hits hard. He did get knocked out here, but he's never shown to be chinny. You know, he literally just ran into the punch. You know, tried to get back to his feet actually. So, you know, I think it's just he got hit hard. He got hit really hard. I don't think he's chinny in the sense. But Matt Mitrione, you know, solid striker, has some flaws in other areas of his game, but definitely a very serviceable heavyweight. I think him versus Rothwell would work. Maybe even if you want to go back to the Struve fight, it wouldn't be the worst. Derek Lewis, give him maybe a Gonzaga. That'd be pretty high up there. Maybe a Brendan Schaub who's coming off that loss to like Arlovsky or something like that. There's other guys Lewis can fight too. You can go lower. I know it's Ruslan Magomedov, I think. He fights like Josh Copeland. Give him the loser of that fight or something like that, you know. Next fight after that, Joe Lozon defeated Michael Chiesa by doctor stoppage in the second round. Really unfortunate ending, you know. This was a really back and forth fight, even in the stand-up. Lozon's pushing forward, getting some hard hits. Chiesa would rally back, get his own hard hits on him. They would, you know, Lozon would get him to the ground. Chiesa would do well on the ground as well. Real back and forth, and they worked all phases of MMA. It's really nice to see, you know. At a really good pace. I was really curious to see how the fight would continue moving, to be honest with you. Actually seen some improvement in Michael Chiesa in his stand-up, actually. He actually throws a pretty decent body kick now. His punches are still a bit awkward. He is tall, though, and he does try and use very, you know, range-finding type strikes, you know, more straight strikes and whatnot. He's good in the clinch as well, so at least I'm seeing improvement with him. You know, I'd like to see a rematch between these two. I think moving forward, Lozon's kind of where he is, you know. Like, I think can fight some like mid-level guys. He's really good as something of a gatekeeper these days, you know. He'll lose on Michael Johnson, beat a Michael Chiesa, you know, beat like a Mac Danzig, you know what I mean? Lose to Jim Miller. You know, he loses to the top guys. He'll beat some of these up-and-comers, but lose to some of these up-and-comers. So he's something like that. I mean, I don't know who's giving. You can go Iaquinta. Actually, that wouldn't be too bad if they don't do a rematch. Or just one lower to mid-tier guys of the division for these. I can't really like specify who they should get. Down to the prelims. Unfortunately, I missed this fight. John Moraga defeated Justin Scoggins by guillotine in the second round. What I read was that Scoggins actually dominated the first round. Moraga was trying to defend the takedown threat with the guillotine, and it wasn't working apparently. That's what I read, and then it ended up working in the second round. Tough loss for Scoggins. I'm high on the guy, but you know, there's definitely stuff about him. I mean, he's still really young. He hasn't been fighting for very long. I think it's like 2.5 years he's been doing MMA. You know, and he's already this good. You know, so there's still a lot of upside with him. But as far as him breaking into that top 10, I mean, I thought he beat Dustin Ortiz, but I get, you know, judges gave it to Ortiz. Moraga managed to finish him, so got to pump the brakes on him. Some more lower to mid-tier guys at the division for him. Moraga should probably get, maybe even go with like Hussein Formiga next. You know, Formiga's coming off the big win over Makovsky. Moraga Formiga actually sounds pretty good, because I can't imagine Formiga getting like the next title shot. I think the winner of Lineker versus is it Lineker McCall? I forgot now. I want to say it's Lineker McCall, but I'm not 100% sure. I think the winner of that will probably get the winner of Johnson versus Carriazo, though. Next round, Al Iaquinta defeated Rodrigo Dam by TKO in the third round. I missed the third round, but you know, this is Iaquinta. You know, when he's on, he's on. But man, he still has some liabilities on the ground. Didn't show it here, which is great. Wasn't really. Sometimes in the stand-up, he can start falling asleep. Pretty much, like people start hitting him because like he just has like defensive lapses, like in the middle of the fight. You know, his hands are down or something. You know. But man, did he outbox Rodrigo Dam. I mean, it was just like throwing some good combinations, hitting that right hand a lot of times, you know. Good stuff from Iaquinta. He's actually a good wrestler, too. If he can just really fix that hole in his submission game, I mean, he'd be a really, really complete fighter. still improving, not necessarily a blue chip prospect per se, but still a good prospect nonetheless. Solid enough fighter. And he's beaten some solid guys, Kevin Lee, solid guy. Piotr Hallman, I'm actually pretty high on Piotr Hallman. And they managed, Iaquinta managed to beat him. With Iaquinta, just more mid-level guys at this point. He still needs some more seasoning. But yeah, with Dom, just more lower tier guys. Is this 2 losses in a row? I think they'll keep him though. I think they'll keep Rodrigo Dom, and he should probably just get more like lower tier guys of the division. Next fight, I thought Rafael Natal defeated Chris Camozzi by split decision. Questionable split decision. Nothing to get to. I can actually see Natal the first round. The second round was, I leaned more towards Camozzi, but I don't think it was like that far off to say Natal won the second round. Third round was all Camozzi though. I think Chris Camozzi's probably cut after this. I mean, it's 4 losses in a row now to increasingly lesser and lesser competition. Natal just saved his job here, Natal's just gonna fight more lower guys of the division, It's it's kind of fun. In the first round, he's just hitting the overhand right. Even get these weird takedowns and whatnot. And then this second and third round, it's he only knew 4 moves or something, It's he only went to the same 4 moves, the overhand right, the badly attempted double leg takedowns, maybe a leg kick, maybe a front kick to the face. And that's it. I mean, the guy had no moves. I mean, the guy, That's the thing with Natal. It's totally unreliable. I was actually very tempted to pick Camozzi to win this fight. Natal managed to just barely scrape by and get the win here. It's probably just get more lower to mid-tier guys of the division. Camozzi, probably cut. Next fight after that, Chris Veal defeated Tateki Matsuda by unanimous decision. Actually, I believe it was Patrick Wyman, I think. He was saying, he did a post-fight review on Bloody Elbow, and he was saying that if there's besides maybe some some guys on Fight Pass on the prelims, this is a good example of oversaturation. You have a guy in Chris Beal that is just way too raw to be fighting in the UFC. He's not a great prospect by any means, but can definitely use seasoning in the regionals. And then Tateki Matsuda, they need to get more warm bodies. They need to find someone to take the fight on short notice. And he stepped up. And you can tell he's just super raw, And that's the thing. The thing with this oversaturation thing is that you're also getting a lot of fighters. If you still believe in the idea of fighters being UFC caliber, which I do, and I'll probably do a Q&A that talks about this more. Chris Beal and Tateki Matsuda are not UFC caliber guys. They are regional level guys that just so happen to be fighting in the UFC. Whether you want to agree with that or not, I've had a lot of debates, but you can just kind of see the skill. If you can really see a skill, you can just see, hey man, these guys are really low level. I mean, I don't really, what are they doing here? In the number 1 organization. That's just how it is these days. More fight cards, more fighters on the roster. You're gonna get more of these totally raw fighters like your Chris Beals and Tateki Matsudas. Both of them should just fight more lower to mid-tier guys in the division. And finally, Chaz Skelly defeated Sean Soriano by unanimous decision. I liked what I saw from Chaz Skelly, and it's actually what he did was actually kind of what I predicted he'd do. I thought he'd be the superior wrestler, and he was a superior grappler, high pressure, took the back a lot of times. He got turned over a couple times, reversed a couple times, His stand-up still needs a lot of work, but as far as like wrestling and overall grappling and the transitional phases of grappling, he's really good. Good win for him. Just more lower to mid-tier guys of the division. Sean Soriano, he just needs some work. He's a good fighter. He's pretty tough. He's fought some pretty tough guys, in his UFC. Kawajiri as his first fight in the UFC. Pretty tough veteran. Chas Skelly, decent prospect. Trains out a team takedown. Really good wrestler, good grappler. Pretty tough outs. For your first 2 fights in the UFC. And he was supposed to fight someone totally different than Andre Touchy-Feely. So. I actually don't want to see him cut. I hope that he stays. I think he is a solid enough fighter. It's more lower to mid-tier guys at the division for both of them. So that's it for my post-fight analysis for UFC Fight Night 50. If you have any comments, just leave them below. And that's it for MMA for You. Thank you guys very much.